Taylor Swift and Blake Lively have always shared a bond that fascinated fans, a friendship that blended creativity, wit, and heart, and as whispers emerged that the two had reconnected after months of quiet distance, the world leaned in to listen. Because these moments between stars remind us that even behind the spotlight and the gloss, there are real emotions, real apologies, real friendships worth fighting for. And while the story circles around forgiveness, it also paints a much bigger picture about how celebrities navigate life. Love and loyalty in a world that never stops watching. It begins with Taylor Swift, the global icon whose voice became the soundtrack of millions of lives, a storyteller whose songs echo vulnerability and triumph from her early Nashville roots to the stadium lights of Eras tour. She has grown from the girl with a guitar to the woman who redefined artistry, power, and authenticity. And then there is Blake Lively, the radiant force of charm and grace. Known first for Gossip Girl and later as a creative powerhouse in film, fashion, and business, she became not only an actress but a symbol of balance between family, fame, and purpose. And when these two powerhouse women formed their friendship, fans adored it because it felt like something genuine. A bond of equals, who celebrated each other's wins, who laughed in private moments, and who supported one another through the seasons of life. So when rumors of distance surfaced, it broke hearts not because drama was rare in Hollywood, but because this was different. It was a reminder that even the strongest connections can waver under the weight of fame and expectation. And then amid the chaos of headlines about Justin Baldoni and the legal storm surrounding his projects, the whispers grew louder. Taylor and Blake had apparently talked again, reconciled after some months of silence and maybe even exchanged apologies. Not in a dramatic public spectacle, but in quiet honesty. The kind of human moment that rarely gets seen through the lens of celebrity. And yet, even as reports spread that peace was found, insiders noted that Taylor had no plans to make their reconnection a public affair, perhaps a sign of boundaries, or simply a testament to how real friendships sometimes thrive, best away from the glare of the cameras. This moment becomes a thread in a much larger tapestry of celebrity lives where people like Taylor, Blake, and others navigate a world of applause and scrutiny, trying to hold on to authenticity in a digital age where every gesture is dissected and every word becomes a headline. And as we reflect on this moment, we also find ourselves thinking of other stars who have faced similar crossroads in friendship and fame. Think of Selena Gomez, whose story of resilience and kindness continues to inspire millions from her early Disney days to her musical and entrepreneurial empire. She has often spoken about learning to protect her peace surrounding herself, with people who lift her up rather than drain her energy. And in that, she shares a silent connection with Taylor, who has also learned over time that boundaries are acts of love, not rejection. And then we move to others like Zendaya, whose journey, from Disney Channel talent to global fashion icon and award-winning actress, shows how growth in the spotlight can coexist with grace. Her friendship with stars like Tom Holland and her quiet yet strong presence at events remind us that fame can be both dazzling and grounding when met with purpose and humility. Or Rihanna, the queen of reinvention, who turned music stardom into a fashion and business empire, yet still finds time to support causes close to her heart. Her story is one of resilience. From her early beginnings in Barbados to becoming one of the most influential women in the world, she embodies what it means to grow without losing oneself. And in her presence, we see reflections of Taylor and Blake too, women who built their empires, while remaining true to their essence now. When we circle back to Taylor and Blake, the idea of apology and reconnection feels even more powerful. It is not just gossip, it is growth. It is a reminder that friendships, especially among creative souls, are bound to go through seasons, moments of misunderstanding, followed by forgiveness and renewed understanding. And just as Taylor crafts lyrics that touch the heart, Blake channels emotions through her roles and humanitarian work, each reminding us that celebrity or not, we all seek connection, healing, and belonging. The backdrop of Justin Baldoni's legal troubles adds a strange twist to the story, because it highlights how intertwined the celebrity ecosystem is. One headline can ripple through multiple lives. One event can shift the tone of an entire narrative. And yet amidst it all, the best of Hollywood continues to shine through in acts of kindness, generosity, and solidarity. Think of Keanu Reeves, whose quiet humility and consistent compassion make him one of the most loved figures in the industry. He has faced loss and struggle, yet continues to radiate peace, showing that fame does not have to change one's soul. Or consider Lady Gaga, who turned pain into empowerment using her platform to advocate for mental health acceptance and creative freedom, or Harry Styles, whose evolution from boy band star to global fashion icon shows that embracing individuality can inspire millions. These are the kinds of energies that Taylor and Blake belong among, not for the gossip, but for the growth. And as we journey through their stories, we feel like friends sitting around a cozy fire, listening to tales of courage, vulnerability, and the beauty of starting again. We remember that fame may magnify emotions, but at its core, it cannot erase humanity. And that is why people love Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. Not because they are perfect, but because they are relatable even through the shimmer of their worlds. And maybe that is what keeps fans endlessly fascinated. Every look, every gesture, every caption becomes a clue, not to drama, but to emotion, to stories that connect us all. Whether it is Blake sharing glimpses of her life as a mother and creative, or Taylor singing her truth on stage, these women remind us that strength lies not in avoiding mistakes, but in owning them, learning from them, and moving forward together. And so, as the headlines swirl and the cameras flash, we find the real story not in the speculation, but in the sincerity. Two women learning to rebuild a friendship amidst fame, the same way any of us might rebuild trust in our own lives. Because whether the world sees it or not, forgiveness is always an act of quiet courage, and it is in that quietness where the most powerful moments often bloom. And as the story of Taylor Swift and Blake Lively unfolds further, the beauty of their reconnection lies not in grand gestures or viral posts, but in the quiet understanding between two souls who have grown up under the spotlight and learned that peace often happens in private moments, away from flashing cameras and headlines. And while the world speculated about apologies and reconciliations, what truly mattered was the shared maturity that came from years of experience both of them have. Seen the highs and lows of fame, they have weathered rumors, false stories, and misunderstandings. And yet through it all, they've built legacies that reflect grace, growth, and grounded strength. And even as Justin Baldoni's legal troubles dominated entertainment news cycles, these women reminded the world that empathy still exists in Hollywood. That friendship and forgiveness are not just rare headlines, but real emotions lived in small, unpublicized ways. The connection between Taylor and Blake was always genuine. It started years ago, rooted in creativity, humor, and trust. They were both dreamers, both storytellers who used art to connect with people. And in that shared creative energy, their friendship thrived through the years. They've celebrated birthdays, supported projects, and woven their bond quietly through their busy lives. But fame is a demanding companion. It tests even the strongest relationships, and sometimes it takes a step back to remember why those bonds were so special. In the first place, this is what makes their reconnection meaningful. It is not a public statement, but a private reflection of who they have become as individuals and as friends. Taylor's world is one of constant evolution. Each era of her music represents another layer of her identity, from fearless to folklore, from reputation to the life of a showgirl. She continues to grow, exploring her truth with vulnerability and power. She's not afraid to share her heartbreaks, her triumphs, or her lessons, and that honesty has inspired generations of fans across the globe. Blake, too, has evolved beyond the roles that first made her famous. She's become a creative visionary, directing, producing, designing, and embracing motherhood with humor and authenticity. Her social media presence feels real, filled with wit, warmth, and intelligence. She doesn't hide behind perfection, but uses her platform to celebrate imperfection and individuality. And when fans hear that these two women reconnected, it feels symbolic. It feels like a reflection of all the friendships in our lives that go through distance, misunderstanding, and reunion. Because at the end of the day, we all crave connection. We all want to be understood. And that's what makes celebrity stories so captivating. They're mirrors of our own emotions set against a more glamorous backdrop from Taylor and Blake. We can easily transition to other powerful friendships in Hollywood that remind us of love, loyalty, and support. Think of Selena Gomez and Nicola Peltz, who forged a close friendship built on laughter and creative respect, or Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland, whose decades-long bond shows the beauty of sisterhood in an industry that often tries to pit women against each other. Or consider the new generation of stars like Olivia Rodrigo and Billie Eilish, who despite their young ages carry themselves with authenticity, showing that connection and kindness are the real markers of success across all these stories. One theme remains constant growth and compassion, even when facing public controversies or personal challenges. These celebrities remind us that growth is not linear, it's filled with ups and downs, and that is what makes their stories human, just Like Blake and Taylor, we've seen people like Demi Lovato rise after struggle, finding healing through self-expression and advocacy, or Selena Gomez, choosing peace over drama, focusing her energy on creativity and kindness and what ties them all. Together is that sense of courage to evolve, to forgive, and to keep creating light in a world that often thrives on shadows. Now in this ongoing saga where Justin Baldoni's lawsuit has created turbulence in Hollywood conversations, the strength of character shines brightest in how others respond, while legal drama swirls around him. Other celebrities like Taylor and Blake choose to remain focused on their art, their families, their fans, and their impact. This quiet professionalism speaks volumes because true resilience isn't loud, it's steady and calm, and in a world obsessed with spectacle, that calmness feels like rebellion. It's a reminder that fame may amplify noise, but character amplifies peace. And speaking of peace, we can't help but admire how many celebrities have found ways to use their fame for good through charity advocacy and everyday acts of kindness. Take Angelina Jolie, who has spent decades advocating for refugees and humanitarian causes, traveling across continents to bring attention to global struggles, or Leonardo DiCaprio, who tirelessly fights for environmental protection using his platform to make tangible change, or Taylor Swift herself, whose quiet donations to struggling fans and artists have changed lives. These are the kinds of actions that define legacy far beyond charts and headlines. Blake, too, has dedicated herself to philanthropy, supporting initiatives related to children's welfare, human rights, and the fight against exploitation. She balances glamour with groundedness, and in doing so, she's earned respect, not just admiration. Their stories become interwoven tapestries of resilience, creativity, and empathy. It's no wonder fans look up to them not simply as stars, but as symbols of strength and humanity. And as we move through these reflections, the story of reconciliation becomes a lesson about how to handle growth in public spaces, how to protect what's sacred while sharing what's meaningful, because whether you're a celebrity or not, the challenges of communication, misunderstanding, and forgiveness are universal. So when people read that Taylor and Blake reconnected and apologies were made, it hits deeper than gossip. It feels like hope. It tells fans that even in a world built on image and performance, real feelings still matter. And while Taylor might have no plans to support Blake publicly right now, that decision speaks volumes about maturity. Sometimes the truest support is silence. Sometimes it's allowing space for things to rebuild naturally without performance, without the need for validation from the outside world. It's something Taylor has always understood. She has spoken often through her music about valuing privacy, protecting love, and learning when to step away to heal. And Blake, too, has shown that same understanding. Choosing grace over noise, humor over hostility, these women in their own ways embody the quiet strength that comes with experience. They know when to speak, and when to listen, when to act, and when to let time do its work. And maybe that's the real takeaway from this chapter, that growth doesn't always need an audience. Sometimes it just needs time and understanding. And as the cameras chase after the next headline, the true story of friendship, healing, and humanity continues quietly off-screen, growing stronger with every moment. And as the world continues to watch Taylor Swift and Blake lively with curiosity, what many may not see is that beneath the glamour, there exists a deeper layer of shared humanity. Both women have built empires of creativity and influence, but they have also faced moments of doubt, of exhaustion, and of the need to rediscover balance in a world that never stops spinning their reunion. Even if quiet reflects something, we all experience that moment when you look back at someone who once mattered deeply and realize that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of strength. Taylor, who has been redefining her image for nearly 2 decades, has always found meaning in transformation. Her journey from a teenage country singer to one of the most powerful voices in global music has been marked by evolution, by courage, and by the ability to speak truth through art. Every lyric she writes carries a piece of her soul, whether she's narrating heartbreak, reclaiming power, or celebrating joy. She has mastered the rare gift of connection. She turns emotion into melody, and melody into community, and that's why her fans feel more like friends than followers. Blake, on the other hand, has mastered the art of storytelling. Through visuals, whether she's acting, directing, or designing, she infuses her projects with heart and intelligence. She has always approached fame with wit, using humor to diffuse tension and authenticity to build trust. She once said that laughter was her armor, and in many ways it still is. And perhaps it was that shared sense of honesty that originally drew Taylor and Blake together. two women who could see through the illusion and appreciate the truth of one another. And when their friendship went through its rough patch, it wasn't the end. It was just another reminder that even the strongest connections require care and communication. And as they found their way back to peace amid the noise of Hollywood chaos, it symbolized something powerful, that relationships do not have to be perfect to be real. And while Justin Baldoni's legal situation loomed in the background, reminding everyone of how unpredictable fame can be, Taylor and Blake's quiet reconnection offered a kind of emotional balance to the turbulence. It was a story of softness in an industry that often rewards spectacle. But beyond them, there are countless other examples of resilience and connection that mirror their energy. Take, for instance, Zendaya, whose steady rise has been fueled by a rare combination of professionalism and authenticity. She has spoken about learning to stay grounded amid pressure and fame, often crediting her circle of supportive friends and family for keeping her centered. Her story echoes Taylor's own reflections about surrounding oneself with people who see you for who you are, not who the world says you should be. Or think about Beyoncé, whose grace and discipline continue to inspire generations. She rarely speaks about her private life, but her art speaks volumes about love, strength, and legacy. She has shown that boundaries and openness can coexist, that mystery can be empowering when rooted in purpose. And then there's Rihanna, the queen of reinvention, who balances motherhood, business, and artistry with elegance. She has shown the world that success does not mean conforming. It means evolving unapologetically, and each of these women connects in subtle ways with Taylor and Blake through shared values of authenticity, creativity, and empowerment. They have all faced scrutiny, all endured the weight of expectation, yet they rise again and again, shaping culture and inspiring others to do the same. And when we think about forgiveness in this context, it becomes clear that it's not just about personal healing, but also about creative liberation, because when you let go of resentment, you make space for new energy, for growth and innovation, and that's something Taylor understands deeply. Her eras are not just musical concepts, they're reflections of her own evolution. Every time she releases an album, she invites the world into a new chapter, a new version of herself. She reclaims narratives, she turns pain into poetry, and that's what makes her journey so universal. It's why fans across continents feel connected to her as if her lyrics were written just for them. And Blake shares that same spirit of reinvention. Though her medium is film and fashion, she constantly experiments. With style color storytelling, she's a master at blending classic elegance with modern creativity, and in doing so, she becomes more than a celebrity. She becomes an inspiration for anyone seeking to express themselves fully and fearlessly. Their reconnection serves as a quiet metaphor for the power of renewal, for the idea that even amid the storms of fame, life still allows moments of light and laughter and understanding. And in the broader world of celebrities, we see this same pattern. Again and again, stories of people falling apart and coming back together stronger than before, like Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato, whose complicated friendship evolved through time and healing, or the way Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper found lasting creative respect after sharing a cinematic moment that defined an era. These relationships show that fame may magnify everything, but it does not erase emotion. It does not eliminate the need for forgiveness or support. And as Taylor and Blake continue their journeys in parallel paths, they remind us that strength and softness can coexist, that you can be ambitious and compassionate, driven and gentle all at once. And in that balance lies the magic of enduring friendships. They don't need to be performed for the public, they simply need to be real. And while fans may still hope for a public show of unity, perhaps a post or a cameo or a song reference, sometimes the real act of loyalty is in the silence, in the choosing not to exploit emotion, for attention in the decision to protect what's sacred. Taylor Swift knows the weight of public interpretation. She's seen her every lyric, every friendship, and every choice dissected. Yet she continues to rise because her power lies not in avoiding scrutiny, but in transforming it into art. Blake Lively knows that too. She has faced speculation about her relationships, her career choices, her family life. Yet she continues to radiate confidence, humor, and kindness, proving that happiness isn't about pleasing everyone, it's about being at peace with yourself. And in that sense, their friendship represents the balance between vulnerability and strength, between letting go and holding on, between fame and real life. And as we move deeper into their intertwined stories, we start to see that their reconciliation isn't an isolated event. It's part of a larger trend of celebrities embracing authenticity over image connection, over competition, and sincerity over spectacle. It's a movement toward something more human, more honest, more inspiring. And perhaps that's why people are so invested in their story, because at its heart, it's not about drama or distance or headlines. It's about love and the courage to begin again. And as this ongoing story between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively continues to quietly evolve fans across the world, can't help but feel drawn to it. Because it isn't just about two celebrities. It's about reflection. It's about what happens when two powerful women who have built empires of grace, creativity, and resilience find a way to reconnect in a world that thrives on chaos and division. It's about forgiveness and understanding, about how people who once drift apart can find their way back, not for headlines or applause, but because they remember what once made them laugh, what once made them feel seen. And that kind of reconnection is something everyone can relate to, because deep down, we all have someone in our lives who once meant everything, someone we miss but never quite knew how to reach again. And Taylor and Blake's story gives people hope that maybe healing is possible. Even when life becomes complicated and public and loud, their journeys mirror each other in so many ways. Taylor has spent her life writing about emotions, turning her heart into songs that resonate across generations. She has lived in the public eye since her teenage years, and through it all, she has learned to balance vulnerability. With strength, she has faced criticism, betrayal, reinvention, and love. Yet each time she has risen higher, not out of defiance, but through sheer belief in her art, her voice, her truth. And the same could be said for Blake, who started as a young actress, navigating fame in the era of gossip blogs and paparazzi flashes, and grew into a woman who took ownership of her narrative. She built a career that reflected her intelligence, creativity, and compassion, and through fashion, through film, through motherhood, she became more than an actress. She became a symbol of poise and individuality. And when these two paths cross, as they so often have over the years, it feels fated. It feels like two creative forces meeting in the middle of a storm, finding calm again. And while the world may try to tie their stories to the chaos surrounding Justin Baldoni and his legal troubles, their reconnection seems untouched by drama. It feels pure. It feels grounded in private honesty rather than public performance. Because Taylor and Blake have both seen enough of Hollywood to know that real friendship doesn't need to be paraded. It simply needs to be protected. Their quiet strength reminds people that not every connection needs validation from likes or headlines. Sometimes love exists in unspoken words, in mutual respect, in the decision to rebuild trust at your own pace. And that lesson ripples outward to so many other stories across the celebrity landscape, where we see friendships evolve under pressure. Think of how Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez reconnected after years of distance. Both women who grew up under Disney's lens, learning to find their identities outside of expectation, or how Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton managed to rebuild a sense of mutual respect after years of media speculation, showing that growth can heal even the oldest wounds. And through each of these examples, we see a reflection of what Taylor and Blake are experiencing, a reminder that time softens pain. And that maturity transforms perspective. And even as Taylor reportedly chooses not to make her renewed friendship public, her decision is deeply symbolic. It speaks of a woman who has learned to separate personal happiness from public validation. She has built a career that thrives on authenticity, but she also knows that privacy is power, and that true connection doesn't need an audience. And Blake surely understands that sentiment as well. She has long championed authenticity over image. She shares glimpses of her life, but always with humor and humility. She doesn't perform her happiness. She simply lives it. And that might be why their friendship works, because they both understand that silence can be sacred, that not everything beautiful needs to be broadcasted, and in a world dominated by constant noise where celebrity stories unfold by the minute, their quiet grace feels refreshing, it feels revolutionary. But to understand why their connection resonates so deeply, we must also look at what they represent in the larger context of fame. They embody the evolution of modern celebrity, where the focus isn't on perfection, but on purpose. They've turned vulnerability into power, creativity into influence, and kindness into legacy. And that's what makes them so beloved by fans across the globe. They are dreamers, they are doers, and they are relatable, even amidst the fantasy of stardom. And when fans look at them, they don't just see fame, they see fragments of their own lives, their own friendships, their own struggles with forgiveness. And that's the beauty of stories like these. They bridge the gap between the stars and the audience, between the silver screen and the human heart. And as this narrative unfolds the themes that run through it, extend to other corners of Hollywood as well. There are countless stories of artists finding peace after turmoil, of people rediscovering compassion after chaos, like Selena Gomez, finding strength through kindness. After facing years of speculation about her personal life, or Harry Styles maintaining dignity and positivity in the face of constant public attention, his calm and open energy, reminding fans that fame can be gentle too and even beyond the entertainment. World figures like Zendaya, Emma Stone, and Timothée Chalamet continue to show how humility and creativity can coexist with success. They remind us that stardom can evolve without losing sincerity, that real artistry comes from connection. And when you look at all these stories together, you see a common thread that ties them back to Taylor and Blake. The idea that fame is not the opposite of authenticity, but a stage where authenticity can shine brighter when you have the courage to stay true to yourself. And perhaps that's why people remain fascinated by these two women, because their stories feel like life lessons hidden inside glittering frames. Lessons about how to navigate love and friendship and misunderstanding in a world that magnifies everything and still find peace at the end of it. And while Justin Baldoni continues to face his own public battles, it becomes clear that the world around him is shifting toward compassion, toward depth, toward humanity. People are tired of drama, they crave inspiration, and these stories of forgiveness and growth offer that light. They remind us that kindness still exists in fame, that strength isn't about control, but about empathy. And when Taylor sings about closure or Blake shares laughter with her children, it's all part of that same symphony, a message that life goes on, that people can grow, that healing is possible even after silence and distance. And maybe that's why their reconnection feels less like a celebrity headline and more like a collective sigh of relief, because deep down, everyone wants to believe that relationships can be repaired, that love can evolve, and that even in the dazzling chaos of Hollywood, there are still moments of real human grace. And as the light of this story gently fades into the background, what remains is not the gossip, not the speculation, not even the social media frenzy, but the heart of what it means to be human in a world that watches your every move. Because when we look at Taylor Swift and Blake Lively, what we are really witnessing is two people navigating the same storms everyone faces, but under a brighter and harsher spotlight, and yet somehow they still manage to keep their poise, their humor, their strength. And that is what makes their journey resonate so deeply. Their friendship has always been one of admiration, creativity, and laughter. And though life and fame sometimes pull even the closest people apart, there is beauty in watching them find their way back with gentleness and honesty. And it's that quiet power of reconnection that feels timeless beyond all the headlines about lawsuits, public rifts, or industry chaos. This story at its core is about forgiveness, about two women who have given the world so much through their talent and still find time to be human and humble. And in that sense, they become symbols of growth and grace that transcend celebrity culture. Because it's not just about them, it's about the reflection they hold up to the rest of us that reminds us it's never too late to say sorry, never too late to rebuild trust, never too late to choose peace over pride. And this message extends far beyond Hollywood, reaching across industries and generations, inspiring people to reflect on their own relationships, on what truly matters behind the filters and fame. And when we look at the broader landscape of celebrity life, it becomes clear that this theme of redemption and sincerity weaves through so many lives. Think of Selena Gomez, finding healing through kindness and using her platform to advocate for mental health, or Demi Lovato, embracing vulnerability as strength and reminding millions that imperfection can be beautiful, or Zendaya continuing to show that elegance and intelligence are the new face of modern fame. And even in the world of music, we see it mirrored in artists like Harry Styles and Billie Eilish, who continue to push boundaries while staying grounded in authenticity. All of them show that being real never goes out of style. And it's that spirit of resilience that fans connect to the most, because beyond the red carpets and magazine covers, it's the human stories that stay with us. The stories of rising after heartbreak, of turning pain into purpose, of finding laughter again after distance. And in that way, Taylor Swift and Blake Lively's renewed friendship feels like a symbol of hope. Not just for them, but for everyone who has ever felt disconnected from someone they love. It reminds us that sometimes silence is healing, and that when words finally come, they can carry the power to mend what time could not. And as Taylor continues to write her next chapter, both musically and personally, and as Blake continues to evolve through her creative ventures and motherhood. There's something profoundly grounding about knowing that they found a way to reconnect even quietly, even without the cameras, because it shows that real friendship doesn't need an audience. It just needs honesty and patience and the ability to understand that people change. And that's okay. And maybe that's the lesson hidden beneath all the glittering headlines of Hollywood, that at the end of the day, fame fades. Trends shift, but the heart remains the same. The longing to be understood, to be forgiven, to be connected never changes. And when the world sees glimpses of that in celebrities, it becomes a mirror reflecting back their own desires, their own humanity, their own potential for growth and healing. And maybe that's what makes the world of fame so endlessly fascinating. Not the chaos, but the contrast between light and shadow, between image and truth, between the people we think we know and the ones they truly are inside. Because in every headline about rivalry, there's always a quiet story of reconciliation waiting to be told. In every rumor about division, there's often a seed of healing growing beneath it. And that's the beauty of stories, like Taylor and Blake's. They remind us that even in a world built on spectacle, the most powerful thing of all is still kindness. And as the music fades and the cameras stop flashing, the message that lingers is simple. We can all grow. We can all forgive. We can all find our way back to the people who once made our world brighter. And that is what makes this not just a celebrity story, but a human one. A story about understanding love and evolution, wrapped in glittering fame, but rooted deeply in truth. And maybe that's why fans will always keep watching, not out of curiosity, but out of connection. Because through these lives lived in public, we find pieces of our own private hearts. And in the end, that is what makes every song, every friendship, every comeback worth it. The reminder that even after the hardest chapters, there's always another one waiting to be written, filled with light hope and the gentle courage to begin again. Stay tuned for more celebrity stories, inspirational journeys, and red carpet moments that touch the heart. Subscribe for weekly storytelling documentaries about the stars you love.